From MinTech, the Micro Nano Technology Education Center, this is Talking Technicians, the podcast about technicians, who they are, what they do, and where they come from. I'm your host, Peter Kazarnoff. I teach technicians and engineers at Portland Community College. In each episode, you'll meet a working technician and hear their story. That means real interviews with real technicians about real jobs. At the end of each episode, you'll hear actions you can take if you want to be a technician too. In this episode, you'll meet Ian. Ian is a maintenance technician at Polar Semiconductor in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, outside the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Ian, welcome to Talking Technicians.
Thanks, Peter. It's good to be here.
I'm glad that you're here and going to be able to talk with us today, both about your work and about some of your education experience. So, Ian, you live outside the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. How long have you been there for? Is that where you grew up?
Yep. I grew up just north of the Twin Cities, about 30 minutes north in Forest Lake, and moved down to southern part of the metro area here, and been here now for about 15 years.
Yeah, so Ian, let's kind of transition into where you work. You work at Polar Semiconductor. How would you describe your job title?
Well, I'm a maintenance technician. I've worked in the etch department, and over the last 4 years, I transferred to the diffusion LPCVD department. So on a day-to-day tasks are troubleshooting equipment tool issues.
And when you say LPCVD, for those that don't know those acronyms, what do those things mean?
Liquid physical vapor deposition and diffusion. So basically, LPCVD, we're taking very low pressure and heat, and we're depositing particles or layers on top of wafers. And then diffusion, we're just using at atmosphere. We're depositing on top of wafers at about 2000 degrees C.
And at Polar Semiconductor, how would you say your typical day goes? Like, what do you do at the beginning? What do you do in the middle? And what do you do at the end?
Sure. When I arrive, we take over from the previous shift. The plant runs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So we go to what's called a pass down, where we spend about half an hour talking about all the tool issues that arose in the past and what they've done so far to troubleshoot issues. And we kind of spend about 15 minutes talking about that. And then my group and I talk for about 15 minutes on a plan on how we're going to approach taking over. And then we begin. Throughout the shift, we have what's called a pro score. There's different levels of tools that are higher priority or lower priority. So based on that, we'll determine where we go to work. And I'll basically go to a tool and spend as long as I can or have to on it to fix it. And if I don't get it done, or I do get it done at the end of the shift, we go back to pass on to the next shift and pass all that information on to them.
Right. So we kind of have this cycle of receiving pass down, then doing your work, and then giving pass down to the next shift.
Yep.
So Ian, Polar Semiconductor is located in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. What kind of things do they make? What do Polar Semiconductor products go into?
Well, they make computer chips mainly for automobiles at this time. So all safety devices, for instance, on Toyota, are, I think, about 80% of their chips for all their airbags and their sensors for, different O2 sensors and brakes and anti-lock brakes come from us. We are affiliated with Allegro and Sanken. Sanken, a very large corporation out of Tokyo, Japan. And I think they own roughly 50% of Toyota. So we pretty much, majority of our chips go to them.
Right. So the chips that you work on making, those are the kind of chips that really do help people safe out on the road, because those are the chips that go into things like airbags or anti-lock brake sensors. So Ian, could you talk to me a little bit about compensation and salary? If someone becomes a maintenance technician in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area in the semiconductor industry, what could they expect to make?
Um, I guess starting technicians right out of school right now with a 2-year associate's degree, related in science or in any kind of mechanical maintenance, is starting roughly around 60,000 a year. I would say the high end after somebody that's been maybe in the field for 10 to 15 years plus is probably pulling around 110, 120,000, somewhere in that range.
Oh, so that's a pretty good living after you finish a 2-year technician degree. Besides salary, are there other benefits to working at Polar? Things like healthcare or dental or retirement plans?
Yeah, they have a very good healthcare with I have very minimal costs for myself and my family, and dental and life insurance is we have free life insurance, free identity theft protection. We have free access to lawyers. We have a whole range, a lot of benefits from them. They also have a very good 401k match at 5%, and they're just about to announce stock options in the future here. So,
Yeah, it's great. So just besides that salary, then you have all these other professional benefits, and so you can make working as a technician a real career. Are there any opportunities for professional growth at Polar? If you start in as a beginning technician, what could you move on to do?
um, I can move without obtaining a higher education. You can really just move up in the maintenance department. So right now I'm a level 3 technician. I started as a entry level 1. So as you progress, maybe the average would be about every 3 years you could move up a level if as long as you work hard enough at it.
Hmm.
So I'm basically on my goal to climb the ladder to a level 5 technician.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. And what's different about your work now that you're a level 3 compared to when you were at a level 1?
I'm a senior technician, so now I'm by myself. I can multitask and take multiple tools on, and my troubleshooting skills and reading schematics, whether they be controller, electrical, or more advanced than somebody at a lower level. So now I'm kind of off on my own, and as I build, you can get to master technician at level 5, where you pretty much could explain the tool from one end to the other without even looking at anything. So,
Hmm. Hmm. So it sounds like you get a little bit more autonomy in your work, but also a little bit more responsibility as you move up those different technician levels at the company.
yep.
So, Ian, how about we transition a little bit and talk about how you got to where you are now? You mentioned that technicians usually go through a 2-year program at a community college. What kind of education background did you have before you started working at Polar?
Before I guess I first have just had my high school diploma, and I actually started a business on my own. I did that for about 10 years, from about 20 to 30. And by the time I was 30, I realized that wasn't going to make that very, not going to make a very good living. So at that time, my wife and I both actually went to school at the same time. And that's where I actually got my degree in nanoscience technology at Dakota County Technical College. The reason why is just to raise a family, make more money, have a better career, and better opportunity. So and right up to school, the second job I applied for was Polar Semiconductor, and it just was kind of interesting because I really didn't intend to go into maintenance with the nanoscience technology degree. It was going to be more lab work and working on advanced microscopes like SEMs and atomic force microscopes and things like that. But they gave me a walkthrough and gave me a week actually to work with them first to see if I'd be interested or not. So after the first week, I was hooked on it, and that's what I wanted to do. So just kind of interesting how that all works out, but it did.
And Ian, from that time that you ran your own business, how did some of the things that you learned during that time help you inform your work as a technician now?
Running my own business, I basically did everything from the labor to accounting to advertising, just multitasking, and then the ability to accomplish all of that and still keep it operating, I guess. All of those things together kind of helped me to learn to work with others and teamwork.
And Ian, how about the work that you did at Tacona County Technical College? What kind of skills from that program did you bring with you to Polar Semiconductor?
Well, it's funny when I was first on it, if you were to ask me that question, I would say I'm not really sure. But now looking back on it, a lot of interpersonal skills, working with people to do labs that we did, build a lot of teamwork, just critical thinking skills, being able to take what we're learning in class. We would take something in class, go into the lab, and we would perform different experiments and just all those abilities and skills I was learning, I'm using on a day-to-day basis at my job right now.
Yeah, so Ian, besides some of the technical aspects of your job, you mentioned that you do some of those interpersonal skills or professional skills. Are things like communicating verbally, communicating in writing, and reporting, are those big parts of your job right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the communication going in and out of pass down before and after. Uh, if you're not saying the correct things or you're not explaining very well, you're going to have people repeating things that you've already done, or you're going to repeat things people already did on the previous shift. Um, the tool history, when we're done working on a tool, we need to document everything and need to record everything as we're going. So if I'm troubleshooting, say, an electrical schematic, if I am following where I'm losing voltage, for instance, if I don't document the 40 different steps I took correctly and people can't read that and interpret it, it's just going to waste a lot of time. So yeah, that's very important, and it's something that I definitely learned in school.
Yeah, that makes total sense that it's not just communication for communication's sake, but the reason that we're doing it is because we're saving people time and we're making the company more productive while we're doing it. So Ian, you mentioned that you went into Polar Semiconductor after your community college experience. Do you remember what it felt like your first day or the first time that you went into Polar Semiconductor?
Just like anywhere, you're nervous and anxious, but I felt, like I said, they gave me a week to work there to make a decision. And, after the first day, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So I felt very comfortable right away and just put at ease. So, and just working with everyone that knew what they were doing, and the fact that they were all willing to help. And, you could see that, and you could ask them a million questions and everyone would answer it, and, show you everything you need to do. And just the willingness to work with me was definitely what made me want to stay there. So,
Yeah, it sounds like that the other folks at the company were pretty kind, pretty nice, pretty sociable, and welcomed you in. So, Ian, what's something unexpected about working as a technician that you only found out when you got your job at Polar Semiconductor?
well, I had never been in I guess I did tour a clean room in school one time wearing a bunny suit, but yeah, wearing a full polyester suit from head to toe and working on tools that are 2000 C, that put off about, probably about 150-degree Fahrenheit off of the tools. So that's something I didn't expect. It's something that took time to get used to. Trying to do critical thinking when you're in that situation, it's a challenge. It takes time to get used to, but I guess there's different things with every job that you have to get used to. So.
Ian, you mentioned that both you and your wife went into community college at the same time. How did your life change once you graduated from community college and you got your job as a technician? What was different for you and your family after that?
Well, my wife and I both went I think I was 32 and she was 31. We had three children at the time, so it took a few years to finish our 2-year degree each. But by the time we we're 35, 36, we both finished. And the first thing we noticed is just financially how much better off we were to raise a family. Um, that was definitely the number one thing and the number one reason why we decided to go to school.
Yeah, that makes sense that maybe it's this financial burden that you finally feel like is lifted a little bit once you get that career type job. So, Ian, to sort of finish up today, what advice would you give current students or people who want to transition their careers like you did from running your own business and become a technician in the semiconductor industry like you are? What advice would you give folks like that?
Well, people that were in my situation, I was afraid to make that jump to later in life. Usually people go to school when they're younger, around early 20s. I made that decision at 32 and I was really afraid to do it, but it was the best decision I've ever made. Um, if you don't feel right where you're at, which I didn't, to make that jump, it's still scary, but you knew it was the right thing to do. So I would definitely encourage people to, if you don't feel good at exactly what you're doing currently, and you decide you want to go to school to better yourself and get a better education, I definitely would suggest doing that.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point that it doesn't matter what your age is. You can still go back to community college, get a degree, better yourself, and start a new career. You don't just have to be 18 out of high school in order to do it.
Nope, absolutely.
Well, Ian, thank you so much for sharing your story with me and being on Talking Technicians today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Please keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Talking Technicians is produced by MNT-EC, the Micro Nano Technology Education Center, through financial support from the National Science Foundation's Advanced Technological Education Grant Program. Opinions expressed on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the National Science Foundation. Join the conversation. If you are a working technician or know someone who is, reach out to us at info@talkingtechnicians.org. We're always looking out for great guests to share more stories with you.